Woo! All right. Good afternoon, folks. Welcome to the recap edition of the Banks account. I'm your host, Kareem Banks, and we're going to get into yesterday's action around the National Football League. Got a lot on my mind, a lot of things, a lot of happenings yesterday. Some good football action from start to finish. We had an early start, out across the pond, 9:30. I didn't even know that game was on. I actually turned on the TV and saw the game was on. I got caught off guard with that. I was actually going to pick up Theo Riddick in my fantasy league because I realized I was short of running back. But nevertheless, we could start with that game. We could stay on that theme and talk about the decline and fall of the Atlanta Falcons. This is a team in just total disarray. They're just bad. How do you blow a 21-point lead against the football team is beyond me. They scored 0 points in the second half. Matty Ryan was not Matty Ice yesterday. They did not get the job done on defense, but that's sort of a recurring theme down there in the dirty South. What can you say about the Falcons? The Lions went in there without Calvin Johnson. They got it done. Matty Stafford, 325 yards passing, a couple touchdowns. I don't think he turned the ball over. Correct me if I'm wrong. They kept Joyke Bell in the running game at bay. But again, Golden Tate stepping up, 7 grabs, a $151, and a touchdown in the absence of Calvin Johnson. When Megatron gets back, that's going to be a powerful 1-2 combination. Look out, Dallas. Look out, Philly. Look out, San Francisco. Detroit is not playing around. They are here. Jimmy Caldwell got them guys prepped and ready to ball. They are not going to be an easy outcome January. The Falcons, on the other hand, what can you say? They decided to do that, what was the HBO special? What's the name of that special? Hard Knocks. Well, they ain't so hard this year. They're 2-6 and falling. I don't think they're going to be able to recover. Mike Smith might, I stress, might survive the season. They may give him another year, but certainly if they start off next season the way they're starting off now, they're going to get Mike Smith out of there. They might even get him out of there this year, but Atlanta's a bad football team. Steven Jackson is finished. They need to move on from him. Matty Ryan, he's a solid quarterback, don't get me wrong, but right now they're just not getting it done in the dirty South. So that's all I'm going to say. We'll move on from that football game. Now, before I get to the next game, which is actually a perfect segue to what I wanted to sort of touch on, spend a little time on a little bit, we're going to move to Cincinnati and talk about that Baltimore-Cincinnati game. Listen, I understand the NFL loves offense. I understand the philosophy is the more points scored, the more viewers, the more money they make. I get it. I understand it. But it's really getting to the point now where some of these games are unwatchable. What happened yesterday at the end of the Baltimore-Cincinnati game, in my opinion, was an absolute travesty. Now, this is coming from someone that absolutely loathes the Baltimore Ravens. And inside, I'm glad it happened to them. But this is a guy that's coming from them that hates the Baltimore Ravens. But they absolutely got hosed yesterday. They got bent over and, it was absolutely ridiculous. Steve Smith, in his attempt to make a play, sort of put his hand out and the guy fell down and they called offensive pass interference, cost them the game. These games are too precious. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm talking to the officials right now. These games are precious, man. They are too damn difficult to get wins. These players put their bodies, blood, sweat, and tears on the line. They start in April and they work their bodies and pound their bodies to get in the position to help their team win games, which is extremely difficult to do. Hard to do in this league. And for some guy to just sit back there and just randomly just throw flags like it's candy, like it's nothing, it just absolutely sickens me. It sickens me. I watched the Pittsburgh-Indianapolis game where they were just hauling penalties out like it was nothing. I mean, you just brushing, breathing up against a wide receiver, and they're throwing the flag. Listen, you know I love the Steelers. You know I love Big Ben. You know I love Steeler Nation. But I'm a realist. The only reason, well, I won't say the only reason, he was in a zone. But he was able to get 500 semi-yards passing because the Colts clearly knew, hey, we can't even go near these receivers or else they're going to throw a flag. And as a result, we had receivers running wide open all over the place. I mean, they had some breakdowns. That's all on them. But just penalties, just way too many penalties on absolute nonsense. Getting back to the Ravens game, I mean, like I said, they dropped a tough one out there in Cincinnati, 27-24. That gives Cincinnati a season sweep over the Baltimore Ravens, which might come back to haunt them late in the season. And they lost both games. Both games were very close, very competitive, and both games went right down the wire on a play that happened in the final minute of the game. Same thing with this. Andy Dalton, quarterback sneak. He had pretty decent numbers, 21 of 28, 266, no touchdown passes, but he did get the touchdown run. Joe Flacco, pretty pedestrian numbers, 17 of 34, $195, no touchdowns. But again, they absolutely got robbed. That's all I'm going to say on this game. We'll move on. But again, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. Because again, I absolutely loathe Baltimore. I hate them with all my might. I'm glad it happened to them. But the fact is they did get robbed. Cincinnati gets the W. Down in Jacksonville, Miami Dolphins knock off the Jacksonville Jaguars 27-13. A game that really wasn't too competitive. Blake Bortles, 18 of 31, 221 and a touchdown. Tannehill, again, pedestrian numbers, nothing to really write home about. 16 of 29, $196. Most importantly, he didn't turn the football over. Jacksonville needs to get it together, man. This is absolutely ridiculous. They really need to start winning some games, even though they did get the win last week at Cleveland. But this is the NFL. They need to win some games. The St. Louis Rams, they went into Kansas City, jumped on the Chiefs quick, 7-love, but it was all downhill from there. As Austin Davis struggled, 15 of 25, $160. They lost Brian Quick, and it looks like he's going to be done for the season. So that pretty much puts a fork in the season for the St. Louis Rams. Not that they were going anywhere anyway. The Kansas City Chiefs, solid football. It's playing some solid football right now. Alex Smith, 24 of 28, 226. Jamal Charles got into the end zone twice. I said he'd have a nice day. 2 touchdowns for Jamal Charles. There was a Dwayne Bowe sighting. He had 64 yards, 6 catches. But again, 34-7 drubbing of the St. Louis Rams. Moving on. I'm probably about to get interrupted right now. There's a whole bunch of folks coming home from school and stuff. But anyway, we'll keep it going. Let's go up to New England, where we saw the New England Patriots. Tommy Brady, absolutely waxed the Chicago Bears 51. What was it? 51-23. Tommy Brady, 5 touchdown passes, 354 yards. Rob Gronkowski, 3 touchdown passes. Like I said yesterday, they're starting to get their rhythm back. They're getting Gronkowski, into form. He's dominating. He's controlling the middle of that field. That's going to be a problem for teams. Big matchup against the Broncos next week. Brady Manning Bowl, whatever they want to say. Chicago, I'm not quite sure what's going on out there. I mean, Jay Cutler, if you look at his stats, they're pretty decent, 20 of 27, 3 TDs, but the touchdowns were thrown when the game was already decided. This game was over in the first half, absolutely over. Not sure what the future is for the Chicago football team. Not sure what the future is for Mark Trestman and his staff. They've done a bad job out there in Chicago. There's absolutely no reason why this football team should be in the condition that they're in. Again, Matty Forte did get over 100 yards, but again, it was all done in garbage time. This game was decided early in the first half. Good job for the Patriots. 51-23 win over the Chicago Bears. Let's go to the Meadowlands a little bit. The New York Jets drop a 43-23 decision to the Buffalo Bills. Now, listen, there's a whole bunch of fuckery going on in that Jets at that quarterback position in New York, man. I mean, Geno Smith starts the game with 3 interceptions, and then his backup Michael Vick comes in and just turns the ball over once again. They gave him $5 million for this season, Mike Vick, to be the backup. He's finished. He's absolutely finished. He might as well take this payday. He's never going to start ever again in the National Football League. He can't hold on to the ball. He's not prepared when he goes into games. I mean, this is just an absolute joke. They should have kept, in my opinion, Geno in the football game. Let him take his lumps. Rome wasn't built Rome wasn't built in a day. Give the man some time. People forget, this is still only his second year as a quarterback. He's not going to pick this thing up overnight. Let him take his lumps. Let him learn. Give him some time. You're not going anywhere this year in New York, so you might as well really find out what you got at the quarterback position. We found out that Vic will start again this Sunday, so they're going to bench Geno. Like I said, man, get the guy out there, man. Even if he does continue to turn it over, let him learn. You're not going anywhere. Run the football with Ivory. Run the football with Chris Johnson. Percy Harvin, get him on some sweeps, something. I don't know. But going back and forth, going to Michael Vick, I mean, you're just going backwards, you know. They might as well just do Rex a favor and just get him out the building now. So he can start searching for a job for the 2015 campaign. They really screwed him over. They didn't spend any money on the offseason. They were like $20 million under the cap. And they refused to bring some talent in. Oh, they decide week 7 we're going to bring in Percy Harvin, a guy that nobody really wants. I mean, it's just a terrible job what's going on out there in New York. And it's really a shame because the Jets have some passionate fans. They got a really passionate fan base. And, they deserve a little bit more, I guess. I mean, whatever. Screw them. But again, it's just an absolute travesty what's going on out there. Buffalo, Kyle Orton, 10 of 17, 4 touchdown passes. He might have had 5 if Sammy Watkins wasn't screwing around on that play where he decides to celebrate like 10 to 15 yards too early. But he had a nice day, 3 catches, 157 yards and a touchdown. Nothing really going on for the New York Jets offensively other than Chris Ivory. I believe he catch. Oh, no, I thought he was over 100. I could have swore he was over 100 yards, but that was my mistake. But nevertheless, Jets drop a 43-23 decision to the Buffalo Bills. The Jets now 1-7. They've losers of 7 straight. Just a terrible job being put in by Rex Ryan and the crew. Like I said, you might as well just do them a favor, get them out the building right now. Let's see who else we got. We got the Minnesota Vikings, 19-13 win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It was a pretty uneventful game, with the exception of the end. Tampa Bay came down, tied the game up, put it in overtime, but then they coughed the football up like the first or second play into overtime. Minnesota takes advantage of it, takes it back to the house for the touchdown. Teddy Bridgewater efficient, 24-42 for 241 and a touchdown. But most importantly, the offensive line played much better. He only got sacked once, and he wasn't running for his life. He got time to survey the field a little bit, process information, make his reads. Good job for Teddy, but they got to keep it up. And again, give this man some time. I think he'll be all right. I really do think he'll be all right. You got a good coach in Mike Zimmer. He's from the AFC North. He's going to turn your team into a physical football team. On the other side, like I said yesterday, Lovey is doing a terrible job down there in Tampa. Glennon, pedestrian numbers, 19 of 28 for $171. Doug Martin, I believe he left the game, might have tweaked himself. Mike Evans, they're talking about trading him. Trade rumors out there. That's never a good thing. But the Buccaneers now fall to 1-7 on the season. Now, we talked about yesterday. We talked about statement games, and we had 3 what I called statement games. We already discussed one. Cincinnati getting a win over the Baltimore Ravens, getting a win over the Baltimore Ravens. And then we talked about Pittsburgh and Indianapolis and Philly and Arizona. I want to talk about my guys for a little bit. Let's move to that game. I said yesterday that this was sort of a statement game. This was a game that we had to win and show, hey, even though we've struggled, we can still play with the cream of the conference. And everyone can agree that the Indianapolis Colts are one of the better teams in the AFC. Well, they came into our building yesterday and we absolutely throttled them. Big Ben, listen to these numbers. Listen to these numbers now. 40 of 49 for 522 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. Now, Le'Veon Bell pitched in 24 carries, 92 yards. Antonio Brown, which I repeatedly said that he is one of the premier receivers in all of football. The offense that you saw yesterday, that's the offense that we anticipated that the Steelers would have. Not the offense that we saw in Cleveland. The offense that you saw yesterday where we could run the ball and score at will. Now, I know we're not going to put up 51 points every week, but I really believe we have the weaponry where we can score 30 points a week. And our defense now starting to get a little more physical. Why? Because they put Big McCullers in there. 6'2", 6'7", 370 pounds. Clogging up that middle, getting a pass rush. We're pushing the pocket. Jason Worlds pushing the pocket. 36-year-old James Harrison pushing the pocket. Brett the Diesel Kiesel pushing the pocket. Lawrence Timmons flying around. That's the Steeler defense that I know. That's the defense that we're accustomed to. Now, granted, Luck still had good game. He threw for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. But I will say this. At no point was I really concerned in this game. Now, we have to, for God's sake, we have to put Cortez Allen on the bench. He is an absolute liability, and he cannot be trusted to be on the field. This man has clearly lost his confidence. He doesn't even want to be out there. At one point, I stopped blaming him and said, this is on Mike Tomlin and LeBeau for keep trotting this young man out there. He's been demoted from the starting job to the nickel. And even then, teams figured out a way to isolate him and throw at him. They got to get him off the field, for God's sake. Send him back to the practice squad. I know you just signed him. I know you just put millions of dollars into him. But he cannot be on the field. He's a liability. The minute he came on the field, they identified him, isolated him, and went right at him. Cannot happen. Especially when everyone else was stepping up their game. Excellent game yesterday out there in Heinz Field. Again, Ben Roethlisberger, 522 yards, 6 touchdowns. My guys are back. My guys are back. I said my guys are back. And we're going to take care of Baltimore on Sunday. Best believe that. Let's go on to the next game. What did I just do? There we go. Another game. We talked about the other third statement game, the Philadelphia Eagles and Arizona Cardinals. Listen, I said yesterday that Nicky Foles was going to struggle, and you see what happened. He struggled. Threw a couple of picks out there. Very timely picks in the red zone. You just can't turn the ball over in the red zone. At least get 3 out of the thing. 36 of 62. I didn't know he threw the ball 62 times. What in the hell? 36 of 62, 411 yards. Why are you throwing the ball 62 times, Philadelphia? When you got Shady McCoy. What in the hell is going on in Philadelphia? Chip Kelly, you need to slow your roll, man. You should not. This is the National Football League. This is not the Pac-10 or the SWAC or wherever the hell you came from. Your quarterback should not be dropping back 62 times in a National Football League game. Carson Palmer, 20 of 42, 329 and 2 TDs. Most importantly, a 75-yard bomb to John Brown that closed the deal on the Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah, you guys, you Eagle fans, you could jump on Nicky Foles' case, but bottom line, you cannot give up a 75-yard touchdown pass to Johnny Brown in the final couple minutes of the game. That's on the defense. I'll say it again. That's on the defense. That's on the defense. That's a piss poor job on the Philly defense. Period. Again, 62 times throwing a rock. That's absolutely ridiculous. You lucky that man isn't injured. Cards get a big win. They prove that they are one of the elite teams in the NFC. Them along with the Dallas Cowboys. That's who I'm believing in. I don't believe in Philly anymore. I'm not convinced with them anymore. They're not physical enough for me. The fact that you're chucking the rock 62 times. You need to change your philosophy and change it fast. Nevertheless, let's move on. Cleveland knocks off Oakland 23-13. I took the Raiders yesterday because I kind of figured that Oakland at some point has to win. So I'd say, why not now? Why not against Cleveland? Well, they're just a bad team. They're still trying to find out. They're still trying to find their way Tony Sperano, I don't think he's the answer by any stretch of the imagination. They just need more talent out there in Oakland. Darren McFadden coughing the football up. I mean, it's just Jones, Drew. I mean, come on, man. 6 carries, 8 yards. What, come on. What is this? This is ridiculous, man. Oakland is ridiculous, man. Listen, Oakland needs to change course fast, or else they might be like the what was it the Lions a couple years ago that went 1-15. Damn near. No, they went on 16 as a matter. Did they go on 16? I think they went on 16. The Raiders might go on 16. They are a bad football team. They might go on 16. Tough times out there in Oakland. And that's a proud franchise. The Green Bay Packers last night, they jumped out on New Orleans early but couldn't sustain anything after that. Drew Brees, 27 of 32, 311, 3 TDs. Aaron Rodgers, 418 yards. He only threw the one touchdown that was early in the game. Not much going on. The Packers unable to contain Mark Ingram. Mark Ingram was picking up huge chunks of yardage. My opponent in fantasy had that guy. I was a little pissed off. 24 carries, $172 and a touchdown for Mark Ingram. Yeah, Mark Ingram. Can you believe that nonsense? Packers got to shore up their run defense because that's absolutely ridiculous to give up 172 yards to Mark freaking Ingram. Brandon Cooks, Jimmy Graham. We had a Jimmy Graham sighting. I said, hey, where's Jimmy Graham at yesterday? If you recall, Jimmy Graham did get into the end zone. Only 59 yards, though, for Jimmy Graham. Eddie Lacy, pedestrian numbers. Packers, they're not a team that I'm too concerned about. They'll pull it together. They got Chicago coming into town, so I'm pretty sure they're going to bomb the Chicago Bears next week and get back on track. I think that's pretty much everything. I think I pretty much talked about it. Solid record for me yesterday. If I just pull it up here, if you don't mind. I know I'm running on the time, and I didn't mean to go that long. Let's see. I had 1, 2. Looks like I went 10-3 yesterday. 10-3 for the guru. Yeah, 10-3. Well, we'll see what happens tonight. Remember, I took Dallas over Washington. Give the 10 points. Washington isn't any good. They aren't any good. Take Dallas minus the 10. We saw that tonight. And we'll see you next Sunday for the Sunday's edition. I am Kareem Banks, and this is the Banks Account.